Daniel Jones was the winner of the Indianapolis Colts quarterback competition, but where did it all go wrong with Anthony Richardson? We talk about that. Trade rumors galore with Brian Robinson, Trey Hendrickson, and so much more coming up on this edition of Locked On NFL.
The new Locked On NFL. The madman Tyler Rowland is your double shot of NFL espresso with the Locked On local experts on every major story. Get ready. Rowland is revving up. The new Locked On NFL starts now. Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome in to another edition of Locked On NFL. I'm not the madman. I am Kevin Ostrecker, filling in for the madman Tyler Rowland today here on Locked On NFL, the morning edition. We're going to try to provide you that double shot of daily espresso that Tyler gives you each and every single morning here. We're free and available on the Locked On Podcast Network, wherever you get your podcasts. Whether you're a video watcher on YouTube, you can like and subscribe over there. If you're an audio listener, wherever you get your podcasts, you can follow along and subscribe there as well. 5 days a week here on Locked On NFL, bringing you daily NFL coverage. And of course, we'll be breaking down all the biggest stories around the NFL with the help of our Locked On NFL experts. Thank you to all the everydayers out there, the first-time listeners. If you're somewhere in the middle, thank you as well. Today's episode of Locked On NFL is brought to you by FanDuel. Football season around the corner. Visit the FanDuel app today and start planning your futures bets now. And here with me today, it is Michelle Madjuk. And Michelle, we're kind of in that period where the preseason's exciting for like the first half of the first game. Then they're like, all right, can we move on to the regular season? Week 3 of the preseason's coming up. You just want to fast forward to September. But man, I'll tell you, the amount of news we're getting in mid to late August, it is a whirlwind of stuff going on right now.
Yeah, there's a lot of teams with some tricky quarterback situations that they're trying to figure out. And it seems like they're finally, willing to announce their week 1 starter, at least for 2 of the 3 teams that are trying to make that decision. It's not looking pretty, though, for these teams either way that they go.
No, and it's funny. I filled in for Brian Peacock on Peacock and Williamson last week, and Matt and I went on a journey to find the most middling team in the NFL. Everybody talks about who's the best team, who's the worst team. We wanted to find that 16th team. And Michelle, we settled on the Colts as a team that we both thought was kind of like in no man's land, essentially. And we know that they made headlines earlier in the week by naming Daniel Jones their starting quarterback over Anthony Richardson. Now, Jones and Richardson were in a battle. I think when you have a quarterback battle between those two, you're already in a certain situation where you're just like, okay, are there really any winners in this situation? But it's interesting because everybody's just wondering, where did it go wrong with Anthony Richardson? And Jake Arthur and Zach Hicks of Locked On Colts, they reacted to the news and they talked a bit about their thoughts and feelings on it being Daniel Jones over Anthony Richardson. So I want to play that clip from Locked On Colts, and then I want to get our opinions on where do we feel like the fault lies between the Colts and Richardson saga right now.
So what was your overall reaction to the news today?
Yeah, I still would have gone Richardson. When I kind of sat and thought about this a little more, I thought about it. I was like, this is Shane banking on Shane more than Shane banking on any particular player, because I think a lot of people in that building still kind of rewind to 2023 and the what ifs and, what happens if we change this. And I think Shane probably wants to get himself back to a lot of the stuff that he probably did, like with Gardner, and just being able to have a quarterback that he could predict a little better and really make it be about the system rather than be about a player. Like with Anthony, you can ask him to do this and this and this, but at the end of the day, he is going to do a lot of things, whether it's flop or excel, that are kind of based on him just doing his thing. And I think it's a lot easier for a head coach and play caller to be able to live with the successes and failures if he's got a quarterback that he could predict a little better, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I think that's exactly where he's coming at with this. And I've been trying to wrap my head around it from a coaching standpoint today. And at the end of the day, Daniel Jones is closer to the coach's kid aspect of playing the position, where it's, if I'm telling you to throw a slant, you're going to throw the slant.
It's interesting because we obviously know the Colts believed in Richardson enough to take him very high in the draft, 4th overall in 2023. That seemed to be Shane Steichen's guy. But we knew that the development, Michelle, he needed time. That was the thing with Anthony Richardson. He was not a finished product. And so I think in today's NFL, you see a lot of teams wanting that immediate result. You draft a guy high in the draft. What's going to sell tickets? Playing that guy and hoping that they have success, not sitting him on the bench when he needs to develop. Do you think that this was more on the Colts for kind of not seeing that development plan or not maybe doing what they should have with the raw talent? Or do you think that Richardson just might not have it at this point in his career?
I do think it's a little bit of both. I think it's insane to take a guy that, is so completely raw coming out of school, that had so limited playing time coming out of Florida, and you're going to take him 4th overall, and then you're going to give him 15 starts in the NFL, and then just say, nope, never mind. Like, this dude has not even started a full season of games yet. And I know, like, the Josh Allen and the Jalen Hurts are the rare, commodities that struggle at first in their careers with accuracy and then get better. But that's what you had to hope for with Anthony Richardson, that with time, he could get better. And I do feel like they brought in Daniel Jones saying, okay, this is a guy you can beat. Prove to us you can beat him. And if he really wasn't able to beat him in camp, that is pretty scary. However, I don't get the point of going with Daniel Jones. Like, what is the upside, right? Daniel Jones is not going to be your future. Daniel Jones is not going to win you anything this year. If anything, he might win you a couple more games where you can't have an earlier draft pick. But like, you're not going to win a playoff game with him. So why not see that if if Anthony Richardson can stay healthy for a season, see if he can develop, because you're not getting anything of worth out of Daniel Jones. And honestly, so Richardson has started 15 games in his career. He was drafted in 2023. Daniel Jones has started 16 games since 2023. Daniel Jones is 3-13 record. Richardson's 8-7. Jones has thrown 10 passing touchdowns over that span. Richardson has thrown 11. They both stink. 13 interceptions. And they both have they have the 2 lowest passer ratings as starters over the last 2 seasons. So I don't really get why they chose Daniel Jones. And I think Richardson kind of got handed a bad deal here with a team not willing to be patient with him.
Yep.
But both options are pretty bad.
Yeah. Again, there are no winners here for the Colts. And my only reasoning to think why Jones over Richardson is because I guess that Shane Steichen feels like Daniel Jones has the higher floor and he's the quote unquote vet, and he can maybe, you're right, win you a couple more games. But what is that going to save your job? I mean, I don't really think so. I mean, I think either way, I'd rather go with the high upside play. It's better for the franchise. And at this point, like you read off the stats, it's not like there's that much difference between them, but there's a lot of difference in terms of the ceiling and in the floor that each of them have. Is there any way, Michelle, that there can be a repair between the Colts and Richardson? I know Richardson's agent is saying that, I'm not really sure about the future here. Look, we saw something happen with Bryce Young last season. He was benched. He came back, ended up being a lot better for it. The messaging with Richardson's benching last year was kind of off to me, where they're like, this is long-term. Joe Flacco is now going to be our guy. And then 2 weeks later, it was Richardson back starting. The messaging is off. I don't know if there's a repair between these two parties.
And especially like getting benched again, right? It's one thing to get benched once and then you get benched again. It would have made a lot more sense. They're like, okay, we'll start out with Anthony Richardson. If he doesn't look like he's getting any better, then we move to Daniel Jones, easy peasy. But now, you made a really sour taste in Anthony Richardson's mouth. And it's going to be hard to repair that. Now, if he gets a chance to go in and be a starter, he should be balling out to do whatever he can. But then maybe if he does end up balling out, right, maybe he doesn't trust this franchise, and maybe when it's time for an extension that he doesn't want to resign there. But the probability of that happening is pretty low as well.
Yeah, I think it's eventually there's going to be a parting of ways in some way, shape, or form between Richardson and the Colts. I think at this point it's more just a matter of time. But a team that's looking to acquire talent appears to be the Minnesota Vikings. Michelle, is obviously Jordan Addison suspended for the first 3 games of the season. Justin Jefferson nursing something low. The expectation is he will be back for week 1. But other injuries across the board for the Vikings at wide receiver. So Tom Pelissero reporting that the Vikings are seriously exploring veteran receivers in the trade market. And Luke Braun of Locked On Vikings, he identified some of the bad with Minnesota's wide receiver depth right now. So I want to play this clip from Luke, and then we'll talk about what Minnesota needs on the offensive side of the ball.
Naylor has a jammed hand is the only thing we've ever heard about it, but he's week to week And O'Connell didn't say the nature of the injury, if it's something dislocated or fractured or, strained or whatever. That could mean that he is in jeopardy of missing week 1. And that means that your wide receiver group would probably be in, 11 personnel, Jefferson, Ty Felton, Lucky Jackson. That is not a group that is inspiring. Even
now, apparently with the Vikings wide receivers, Ty Felton left practice literally like 30 minutes before we recorded this. So that's another one right now that you might not have. I don't think we have any updates on Ty Felton right now, but at this point, Michelle, it feels likely that Minnesota could add. And it's not a guy that's going to come in and be a star number like 1 next to Jefferson. Like, you have your guys when everybody's healthy. But in terms of depth, it's important, especially early on in the season, to have that. Are you concerned about where Minnesota's wide receiver position is right now?
Because they have TJ Hawkinson and Aaron Jones, who's one of the, even at his age, he's still a really good pass catching back. I'm not as concerned, right? There are a few teams that have like a loaded wide receiver room. Like, I'm going through this list right now being like, what team could possibly let go of a wide receiver and not get hurt? And it's like, there's really not many out there. You would have said the Buccaneers, but now all of a sudden they're just injured completely across their wide receiver depth chart. And besides Mike Evans and Emeka Egbuka, and obviously they're not going to trade those two guys. So, I mean, it's hard for these teams to really stack up at this wide receiver position. So I think they're okay for right now. Like, Naylor, once he's back healthy, I know he's dealing with that injury, but like, he's a good enough. You want him to be your wide receiver 3, not a wide receiver 2, but they only have to get through a few games here without Addison. Justin Jefferson's the best wide receiver in the league. TJ Hawkinson and Aaron Jones can step in, and you'll get enough from the other pieces, which, like, they shouldn't be leaning on JJ McCarthy that hard to start the year anyways, right? You'd think they'd be really focused on defense and the run game, and then just making sure McCarthy just peppers Justin Jefferson with targets.
We just talked about developing a young quarterback and making sure there's not too much on their plate early. And I think you're exactly right. That's what they need to do here with JJ. I mean, you could throw out like some of the Packers' younger wide receivers because they have a bunch of them. I don't know.
But are they going to trade in division?
Exactly. Yeah.
But Amari Cooper is still out there. I don't know. Maybe sign for a cheap deal. That would pretty much be your main option.
Yeah, there are a few. Other than that, I mean, the Jets have some guys. I know Tyler Johnson's over there, a couple of others that could make impacts. Malachi Corley, who was a 3rd-round pick, maybe he gets traded. I don't know. But at this point, I agree. I'd probably say Minnesota. Hopefully, if it gets like crazy and like it's okay, now Felton's injured, then the next guy then you might have to just trade or sign somebody to do it. I think Cooper's a good point. But I think, to me, Minnesota will be okay. You just got to ride it out early in the season. And then once Jordan Addison comes back, you'll be able to, I think, get back to where you want to go. But trade rumors are still flying around. Brian Robinson, Trey Hendrickson, no resolutions to those situations yet, but that doesn't mean the rumors aren't flying. So stay tuned. We got a lot coming up on Locked On NFL. First, the show is brought to you by FanDuel. August 26th is officially FanDuel Futures Day, a brand new holiday for football fans who live for bold predictions and preseason hunches. For just 24 hours, FanDuel's giving you deals on NFL season predictions. So whether you're calling your MVP, eyeing a long shot division winner, or ready to crown a Super Bowl champ before week 1 even kicks off, this is your moment. And I'm going to crown my Super Bowl champion here now. I do host Locked On Ravens, but I feel really good about them this season. Now, they are tied for the best Super Bowl odds over on FanDuel with the Bills and the Eagles. All 3 of the Ravens, Bills, and Eagles right now are at plus 700, followed by the Chiefs at plus 800. I think Baltimore's roster, Lamar Jackson, they have it all going for them. And if they stay healthy, I think this can be their season. Visit the FanDuel app today and start planning your futures bets now, because Futures Day is one day and one day only. FanDuel, play your game. Back here on Locked On NFL, Kevin Oestreicher and Michelle Madjuk still diving into NFL content with you on this Thursday edition of the show. I'm filling in here for Tyler Rowland, the Madman, giving you that double shot of espresso in the morning. Plus, you can check in with Tony Wiggins in the afternoon for the barbershop for the afternoon edition of Locked On NFL. Michelle, this Brian Robinson situation really came out of nowhere. At least I didn't really feel like anything was happening. Brian Robinson, Austin Eckler, they were going to split. Nope. This thing went from 0 to 100 real quick. Robinson now no longer expected to be a part of the team. He wasn't even at the stadium for the game against the Bengals on Monday night. Now, everything going on with Terry McLaurin also. There's just a lot going on in Washington right now. David Harrison talked a little bit about the Brian Robinson situation, the latest on it, and if there was any chance for the Commanders and Brian Robinson to reconcile and get things worked out. So I want to play that clip from David, and we'll talk about it on the other side.
But certainly there's a good amount of teams out there that could use a running back like Brian Robinson Jr. If the Washington Commanders are not going to continue their process with him, then they shouldn't have any trouble finding people to have the conversation with. The question is, are they going to find somebody to give them the draft compensation that they want for him? That's what we're going to have to wait and see. But after being in the stadium, talking to some people, things like that, pretty much, it's pretty much what we expected. Brian Robinson Jr. just not going to be a part of the Washington Commanders moving forward.
So this is a rare instance of a starting running back being available right at the end of the preseason. We know some teams are hurting for running backs, would really see value in adding a player like Brian Robinson to their team. I mean, what's your whole take on this situation, Michelle? Because it just feels like everyone was blindsided by it, and it has really escalated to a point now where maybe in the next couple days or a week, we see Brian Robinson on a different team.
Yeah, it seems like they're happy with their backfield, even without Brian Robinson Jr. They're really excited about Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, their 7th-round rookie. He's been killing it in training camp and then had that really nice touchdown run in the preseason game this weekend. So, I mean, I always said Brian Robinson Jr. is just a guy. He had that heartwarming story coming in the league when he got shot and then came back and played. And he's been good. He's been fine. He's a fine, semi-starter in this league, like splitting a backfield. I actually don't think there's too many landing spots for him. Unfortunately, the best one would 100% be the Cowboys. Like, they would be shopping. But, and like I said, you shouldn't be too scared to trade a guy like a Brian Robinson Jr. in division, right? But the Cowboys have one clear weakness right now, and it's running back. So do you really want to help them get better? I think they would have to pay up a little extra for them to actually trade him there. Maybe the Dolphins are having some injury issues at running back, and Jalen Wright, who they took in the third, absolutely stinks. Alexander Madison was going to be the backup, but he got injured and is out for the year. So maybe, Achane and Robinson Jr. could split the backfield in Miami. Cleveland's another option if they can't get Quinshon Judkins figured out here with his issues. So, but I really can't figure out too many teams that would be interested in trading for him.
Yeah, he's not going to be like, his ceiling is not like a bell cow star number one guy. I think he's a situational back that can help teams in roles. Like, I feel like Miami, that's actually pretty intriguing, of having Achane and Robinson kind of is like that 1-2 punch. Robinson comes in. You know what? You sold me, Michelle. I like that. Brian Robinson to Miami. You heard it here first on Locked On NFL. But the Terry situation also, Michelle, is just still hovering over the Commanders' heads. They have the Brian Robinson thing. This is a lot of drama for early, before the season even starts. There have been updates on Terry. He clearly wants a certain number. Do you think this thing gets resolved by week 1? Usually a lot of them do, but it's not always the case.
Yeah, I think McLaurin will figure out a deal before week 1. I don't know if he gets exactly what he wants. Maybe he comes down a little bit. Maybe the team comes up a little bit. They kind of meet in the middle. I don't think he should get top 5 wide receiver money. I think he's a very good wide receiver, but not up into that level of even close to the Jeffersons and the Chases and even the CD Lambs or anything like that. So, give him $28 million a year. I think around DJ Moore would be fair, and we'll see if he'll agree to that. But I do think they figure it out right before the season starts.
Moving over to the AFC North and the defensive side of the ball, Trey Hendrickson, you might not have heard, Michelle, Trey Hendrickson and the Bengals have not agreed on a deal yet, and he is not happy about it, and neither is Joe Burrow, and neither is the Bengals fan base, and they shouldn't be, because without Trey Hendrickson, that defense is not looking good, considering what we saw with Jaden Daniels in that defense, or that Commanders offense against the Bengals defense on Monday night. Still no movement. They got the Shamar Stewart thing figured out, so at least they're 1 for 2 right now. But Jake Lisco and James Rapine of Locked On Bengals, they talked about the Hendrickson situation and kind of the message it would send to the franchise if they moved on from him for picks. So I want to play that clip because I think it's an interesting perspective on the potential deal.
Good luck looking Joe Burrow in the eye like, yeah, we traded Trey Hendrickson for a 2nd-round pick, or any draft pick for that matter. Joe Burrow doesn't care about picks. He wants the guys on the field to get picks on defense and get stops on defense. And Trey Hendrickson, in his mind, helps them do that. So finding the path where this makes sense at this point on August 17th, 3 weeks away from the start of the regular season. It's a tough one.
I can't agree with James Moore here on this. I kind of went through this in Baltimore with Mark Andrews, and it's a little bit of a different situation, I know, just positionally and contractually and whatnot. But the Ravens were in talks for Andrews reportedly at points. They wanted a certain draft pick. They didn't get it. And then those rumors kind of continued after the draft, and you're kind of sitting there and thinking, for a contending team to trade a guy for a pick that's not going to happen for essentially like a year, 8 months, it doesn't help you this year. I mean, it would make more sense if the Bengals had agreed to trade Trey, get draft capital in this past draft, add rookies that you feel like could help you this season. If you trade him, like James said, for a second-round pick in this upcoming draft next season, that doesn't do anything for you. The time to win with Joe and Jamar and T, like it's now. Now, the defense as a whole is a entirely different conversation. I mean, where would they be without Trey Hendrickson? Even, covering the Ravens, I don't want to find out. It'd be that bad. But apparently, like, they've been close. They haven't been close. The guaranteed money is off. The years are like, all this it's like a new thing every day, Michelle. I mean, I feel like it'd be a monumental mistake, especially for a guy who openly has said he wants to be in Cincinnati, Like, that's something that is a franchise, especially Cincinnati. You want to have guys who want to be there. It's not always the case for teams that aren't the LAs, the New Yorks, the Dallas, the big market teams. If you're a smaller market, you want to have guys who want to be there, especially a star like Trey Hendrickson.
Yeah, they're going to be in a lot of trouble if they don't re-sign him. I mean, they already only had 36 sacks last year as a team, tied for 25th in the NFL. That was with Trey Hendrickson leading the NFL in sacks with 17.5. He had nearly 50% of the team's sacks last year. And you can say, well, they drafted Shamar Stewart in the first round. Maybe he, completely changes how he performs in the NFL. But the dude had 1.5 sacks in each of his 3 college seasons. So I don't know. Is all of a sudden he become a sack master? I don't really get it, but I do think Hendrickson is very much underrated just in the league in general. He has the second fastest get off time, like off the line of scrimmage since 2021, behind only Myles Garrett. The guy right behind him is Nick Bosa. Like, I feel like people might think like maybe he just gets lucky with these sacks. He has 17.5 sacks in each of the last 2 seasons, like insane production. But no, he's just a really, really good player. There's only been 3 players since 2020 who have 70 plus sacks it's him with TJ Watt and Myles Garrett. They both got $40+ million contracts this year. And I know Hendrickson is aging, but so is Watt. I mean, so is Garrett too. And like I say 70 plus sacks, the 4th most sacks on this list is 53.5 at Nick Bosa. So it's like, those are the only guys with even 54 plus sacks in that span. Hendrickson deserves to get paid. It's crazy if the Bengals let him walk.
He's absolutely dominant. And I kind of compare it to the whole mystery box analogy that people use, where it's like you trade Trey Hendrickson. You could either have Trey Hendrickson or a mystery box 8 months later that could be Trey Hendrickson. Like, to me, it's like he's there. He wants to be there. The production is there. And you're right. Is he 24 years old? No. But he's also not 36, and he's also still producing at the highest level of his career. That's something that, I mean, look, I know he gives the Ravens fits. He gives AFC North teams fits. He gives all teams fits. That's a guy that you can build around on defense. Admittedly, Michelle, on defense, it doesn't have any building blocks, in my opinion, outside of Trey Hendrickson. So I think it'd be a mistake. But, Cincinnati right now is in a bit of a precarious situation. Coming up, we'll dive into some other general NFL news going on as we get closer and closer to the regular season. So stay tuned. We got a lot coming your way on Locked On NFL. This show is brought to you by Monarch Money. Most people can't name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's 401ks, properties, or investments. And when you don't have the full picture, you could end up leaving money on the table. That's why there's Monarch Money. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or your phone. Now, Monarch does the hefty lifting for you, so you can link all your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, get smart categorization of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. And I linked all my accounts to Monarch and immediately spotted a few subscriptions I really wasn't even using. Canceling those alone saved me money every month. I've been really big on saving, and Monarch being able to identify that for me has really helped me along. And it's been helpful also because there are so many other accounts that I'm able to now use in place of the accounts I wasn't using in the past. So don't let financial opportunity slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with code LOCKEDONNFL. Back here, Locked On NFL. Kevin Oestreicher, Michelle Madjuk still diving into NFL content and coverage with you on this Thursday. Again, after this, be sure you go check out the barbershop and Tony Wiggins, who does a great job over there. We got that double dose of NFL coverage for you each and every single weekday. Michelle, let's stay in the AFC North. Pittsburgh Steelers obviously gearing up for their sake what hopefully will be a good season. Aaron Rodgers is hoping to have maybe one last ride as he leads the Steelers to maybe the promised land. I don't know. Maybe it happens. Maybe it doesn't. But obviously on the defensive side of the ball, there's a lot of excitement there as well. You talked about TJ Watt. They go and acquire Jalen Ramsey from Minkah Fitzpatrick. But Cam Hayward has been their leader, at least one of them, on that unit for forever now. He has not been practicing. He wants a new contract, wants money, but he was on the practice field earlier in the week. Chris Carter of Locked On Steelers, he broke it down. I want to play that clip, and then we'll talk about where the Steelers are as a team right now on the other side of it.
Hey everyone, Chris Carter here from the Locked On Steelers podcast with a report here after Steelers practice here Tuesday on the south side of Pittsburgh. Cam Hayward returned to practice, was wearing full pads and working with individuals. Mike Tomlin even said he worked some team reps with the team. Of course, Cam Hayward, notably during training camp, said he was in a hold-in position as he wanted a new restructured deal to his contract that he had just signed last year. Now, of course, Cam Hayward, the 22nd highest paid defensive tackle on a per-year basis, and is a four-time first-team All-Pro, including last season when he played every game during the regular season and earned first-team All-Pro honors again. Interesting news to see that happen. TJ Watt coming over to the media and saying, hey, pay that man. 97 looks great. Jalen Ramsey, Darius Slay also going on Cam Hayward's podcast this week and saying, hey, that guy looks great, talking positively about him. It seems like the players are rallying around Cam Hayward to get him his new deal. We'll see if that plays out. I'll talk more about that on the Locked On Steelers podcast. Get it wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. We'll see you there.
Now, I don't have any concern for the Steelers, Michelle, that Cam won't be out there in week one. I feel like, he will be. Now, will he get a new deal by then? I don't know. But clearly, as Chris was saying there, his teammates have his back. They want him to get paid. What would you do right now? We're recording this on August 20th for August 21st. Would you give Cam Hayward a little bit of a pay bump? Obviously, he's not 28 or 29 or even 32 for that matter right now. So you get maybe a little dicey if you up it too much. But do you think a little pay raise is deserved?
Yeah, it is. I mean, he's absolutely fantastic. Like you said, he's the leader of this team, and it's not even just the run defense that he makes a difference in. He's such a good pass rusher and for an interior defensive line, especially at his age. I mean, he's 36 years old, so you can't expect him to be going around much longer. So it's not like you want to add a bunch of years here, but he does have zero guaranteed money left after this year on his contract. So he is signed through 2026, but zero guaranteed money in that 2026 year. So next year, throw some guaranteed money at him next year, right? Like make a bunch of it guaranteed or I think that's pretty much probably what he's looking for. I don't expect him to think he's going to get this big contract extension. He just wants more guaranteed money. So maybe add another year, some guaranteed money in there. And I think they'd be set. I do think they're dragging this out and making it more difficult than they have to.
Yeah, I don't think he's looking to reset the defensive tackle market or anything along those lines right now. But it is interesting because, again, like the Steelers under Mike Tomlin have proven, and it's funny, we did the Locked On AFC North preview, and one of the things we talked about was over on FanDuel, the Steelers over under 8.5 wins over and under, at least when the time we recorded it was at -110. And I asked Chris, I said, all right, are they going to win over 9 games? And he said, has Mike Tomlin ever had a losing season? And the answer is no. So, like, you see the consistency, but everybody, Michelle, seems to be putting that Bengals team over the Steelers right now because of Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, and T. Higgins. I think the favorite right now in the division is Baltimore. That's kind of consensus. But that 2-3 spot, do you agree with Cincinnati kind of being pretty decisively over Pittsburgh? Or do you think that, again, like with this consistency, the Steelers can go and they can get second back? That's what happened last year. Steelers were second, Bengals were third.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on how good this defense is. They really revamped their secondary. So excited for that. And we can see if Aaron Rodgers has anything left in the tank. The thing is, we know exactly how the Steelers season's going to go. They're going to be 9-8 or 10-7. They're going to sneak into the playoffs, and they're going to get absolutely murdered in the wild card round against one of the big name teams, either the Chiefs or the Bills or the Ravens. They're going to destroy them by multiple touchdowns, and it's going to be a waste of a season. Can you hear in my voice that I'm a depressed Steelers fan? Yeah.
I hear the pain. I hear the pain. I don't think, have the Steelers ever recovered from Chase Claypool saying losing never heard of her?
No. There's a lot of things I haven't recovered from.
Yeah, man. And again, you talk about they just need a quarterback. They can manage the game, not too volatile. You're hoping Rodgers can be that guy.
That's all they've ever had, I feel.
Yeah,
like. I mean, since Ben left, or even the last couple of years of Ben, like I'm sick of being like, just don't have the quarterback ruin it for you. This is how you get your butts kicked in the playoffs, is when you're not hoping your quarterback has to do anything.
I know. I look back to the Ravens game, the one in Baltimore during the regular season, when the Steelers had like all the momentum in that game, and Russell Wilson decides to just take it up the middle of the field and tries to truck over Ardarius Washington instead of just going to the left and running into the end zone, fumbles the ball, gives the Ravens the momentum, and the Ravens just cruise the rest of that way. So again, game manager gets such a bad rep, I think, today, Michelle, because it's like, oh, that means they're just not a good quarterback. And they're the game managers. If they manage the game properly and lets the other guys do their thing, that can literally win you football games. So don't have to be the hero, be a game manager, and good things can happen. Now, the Chicago Bears, they signed their backup quarterback, Tyson Bagent. He really feel good story for Chicago. 2-year deal, $10 million contract, max value is $16 million. Now, watch out, Caleb Williams. No, I'm kidding. We're not there. Obviously, Caleb's the future of the franchise, but it brings up a discussion, I feel like, Michelle, about the Bears. I want to dive into that with you. Lauren Cox of Locked On Bears, he talked about the Bears' performance in a recent preseason game. So I want to play how Lauren's feeling about what the Bears showed, and then I'm curious to hear what our thoughts are about where the Bears are right now, the NFC North.
But the things about this starting offensive performance that I was so encouraged by is just how structured and in rhythm Caleb and the offense looked. They came out passing fast and furious, and I think that was pretty intentional by Ben Johnson. I think it was 3 straight passing plays before their first run had a holding penalty. They very clearly wanted to come out throwing and get the passing game into a rhythm, and that happened very quickly when it comes to like timing.
Ben Johnson was looking for a specific situation. He found that in Chicago, moving over in division. I think right now, Michelle, everyone's talking about the Lions and the Packers and the Vikings about, oh, that's such a 3-headed race. And yeah, last year it certainly was. But I think, to me, the Bears are that team that's kind of getting overlooked a bit. Now, it's going to depend on Caleb Williams, right? In year 2, can he take a leap? He has players around him. But I think, to me, also the protection. I mean, they go out there, they get Joe Thuney from the Chiefs, which I think was a huge addition for them. Are the Bears being slept on a little bit, Michelle, or do you think they might need another year or two?
I don't know if they're being slept on. I think they're just in a really tough division, right? Like if they're in the NFC South, they would be the projected winners there. So it's just a really tough division. It's how much do the Lions fall back without their, losing their OC and DC, or do they not fall back at all, really? Or, the Vikings struggle with pretty much a rookie quarterback in JJ McCarthy starting his first year. And then the Packers have been pretty consistent in the regular season, right? But how strong are they this year? I think it comes down more to the other teams than it does for the Bears. I do think the Bears improved greatly under Ben Johnson. I think Caleb Williams has all the weapons he needs, has the offensive line now, has the play caller. Like, it should all come together. Their defense is solid enough. So I do expect them to win 9-10 games. It's just how good are the other teams in the division? That's what it's going to come down to.
Yeah, you could make an argument for every team in that division to win 10+ games this season, which just shows that, in my opinion, it's one of the strongest, if not the strongest divisions in the entire NFL. But Michelle, I appreciate you. Thank you for all of the insight, fun conversations. And of course, you heard it here first. Tyson Bagent is starting over Caleb Williams this season. No, I'm just kidding. But you can check back in this afternoon with Tony Wiggins in the barbershop, Locked On NFL. Of course, this is the morning edition. You can get your double dose of NFL content every single weekday on Locked On NFL. On the way out, be sure you hit the like and subscribe button in video form. Follow along and subscribe in audio form. For Michelle Madjuk, I am Kevin Ostreicher, and we'll see you back here soon.
Bye, y'all.